This Rise and Shine podcast series has been made possible by the generosity of the Zitelman Family Foundation, which is committed to the unity and continuity of the Jewish people through meaningful and relevant Jewish education and wisdom.
The Talmud says, one who walks a distance of 4 cubit, which is approximately 6 to 8 feet, in the land of Israel, is assured of being an heir to the world to come.
This is Rise and Shine, a podcast that offers timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations to fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note. Here is Adrienne Gold Davis.
When my son was really small, he had a minor obsession with cactuses. Cacti. He loved them so much. They were his preferred gifts, if you can imagine. And he had so many of them all lined up in his little room, some flowered, but mostly they were just sharp, prickly little miniatures and little tiny succulents with leaves. He loved to dust the leaves. Now, this phase went on for close to 2 years. But at the end of it, he was done with them, and he asked me to please take them out of his room. They needed to be gone to make room for his newest obsession, which was wrestling action figures, but that's another podcast. Anyway, I brought those cacti into my kitchen, and they languished there for years. They never appeared to grow more than an inch that entire time. So then I was asked to go speak in Phoenix, Arizona. And when I arrived, I was shocked to see that people's front yards are just filled with the same kind of cactus. But as though they were on steroids. They were like 5 feet high and a foot around. They were massive versions of my kid's former obsession. And I was so struck. How was it that the same species didn't thrive in my house in Canada, but down here, they were these glorious, proud, striking things? Well, it was clear that the desert is the proper ecosystem for cacti to grow to their fullest potential. You know, there's an expression. If the flower doesn't bloom, we don't change the flower. We change its environment. And so it was there. There are ecosystems that are ideal for all living creatures. I was 40 years old the first time I went to Israel. I had circled the globe in my 20s, traveling alone, discovering cultures, cuisines, cute boys, all by myself. And Israel was never on my mind or on my itinerary. And then if you fast forward a decade, I went to Israel on a special women's trip with Lori Palatnik, who's the founding director of Momentum, and a role model and a mentor to thousands upon thousands of women this world over. It was a trip that would become the basis for what is today Momentum. I remember arriving in Ben Gurion Airport and not knowing what to expect. See, I had 2 small kids at home and a husband who was not so thrilled that I was leaving for what was in those days 10 days. But I'd been told that the soul of a Jewish person thrives in the land of Israel, that it may be the ideal ecosystem for the Jewish soul, that one can absorb more wisdom in a week walking on that land than you can accomplish in a year outside of it. And, prickly cactus that I am, I had all my defenses up, and I was not prepared for the profound experience I simply felt walking those streets. And speaking of just walking the streets, did you know that the Talmud says, and I quote, one who walks a distance of 4 cubit, which is approximately 6 to 8 feet, in the land of Israel, is assured of being an heir to the world to come. The commentator, called the Maharal, says that because of the intrinsic holiness of the land of Israel, a person gains spiritual merit merely by walking there. So Rabbi Dov Lev writes that Israel is one of the smallest countries in the world, but the attention it attracts is totally disproportionate to its size or population. In fact, a study of the international press revealed that Israel is represented in the media 75 times more than is proportional to its size. There are massacres, tens of thousands of people in Congo and in Sudan, and they rarely make it to the front page of your newspaper. But Israel, well, Israel's there every day. Clearly, Israel obsesses the world and dominates the media, for better or for worse. You know, it's interesting that in the Torah, there's a very famous story that occurred just before we were about to enter the Promised Land. God allows Moses to send spies, or actually scouts, into Israel to mentally prepare themselves for what they were about to inherit. Now, this wasn't meant to be some hypercritical reconnaissance mission, but rather something to shore up their confidence, right? A preview, as it were. After all, God hadn't let them down thus far, and they were told the land was good and it was theirs for the taking. They were supposed to come back with an objective travel log-style report about the land. But the spies, in fact, returned with a negative report. And the people believed all of the negativity, and it resulted in a great tragedy for our nation. 40 years of wandering in the desert and residual effects that are felt until today. From this we learn that one must judge favorably, not just to our fellow person, but to countries and communities as well. We do not denigrate people or places or communities. This is not to say we have to agree with everything we see. Rather, you're supposed to be open and positive in your judgments. Therefore, we learn that when you're living in or visiting Israel, you should try and make your stay as comfortable as possible. Moreover, if something doesn't go as planned, we have to make sure to maintain a positive attitude. You see, God maintains a special providence over this land. There's a lot of HP, and there is surely a deeper message behind all events. So, armed with this information, I took my prickly self on that initial journey. But what nobody told me about was the sparkling blue sea and the beaches filled with gorgeous sunbathers and surfers and families and singles and dogs and drinks and delights. No one told me there's a fabulous 2-story Zara store in the Mamilla Mall, which is just steps from the gates of the old city of Jerusalem and the Kotel. No one told me that there are more vegan restaurants per capita than anywhere on earth, or that the food is so off the charts delicious that you will eat from morning till night, and that you won't gain an ounce because you're going to walk and walk and walk and walk till you drop. No one told me about Israeli fashion designers or its incredible art scene. I never knew about its inclusive nature, about the multicultural ingathering of Jews from all 4 corners of the world who will reimagine what you think Jewish looks like. That it is possible to stand at a streetlight beside a man with long side locks, a girl with a mohawk and full piercings, a priest in his cassock, and an Ethiopian-born soldier in full uniform. Israel's Declaration of Independence on May 14, 1948, said this: "The state of Israel will be open for Jewish immigration and for the ingathering of the exiles. It will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace as envisioned by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, of conscience, of language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions, and it will be faithful to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations." Whoa. Well, there is still a way to go to meet this lofty aspiration, but Israel and the Israeli people continue to challenge themselves and their society to reach it. But what I like best are the words of Abraham Joshua Heschel, who wrote in Israel, An Echo of Eternity, in 1969. "The land of Israel has been sanctified by the words of the prophets, by the suffering of a whole people, by the tears and prayers of thousands of years, by the labor and dedication of pioneers. Such sanctity is precious to God, vital to the people, a light within history. The State of Israel is not only a place of refuge for the survivors of the Holocaust, but also a tabernacle for the rebirth of faith and justice, for the renewal of souls, for the cultivation of knowledge of the words of the divine. By the power and the promise of prophetic visions that we inhabit the land by faithfulness to God and Torah, we continue to survive. Okay, by now I think you figured out that I fell in love with the land of Israel, with the state of Israel, with the people of Israel. And while I am a super proud Canadian, Israel is in my blood and in my soul. Now, since that time, I've been back approximately 26 further occasions, and still counting. Oh, and let's go back to the cactus plants. Did you know that Israelis are often called sabras? That's a cactus plant, right? Because it's prickly on the outside and soft and sweet and delicious on the inside. So this week, can you bring a little Israel consciousness into your homes? Why don't you chop up a salad into teeny tiny little squares and drench it in olive oil and lemon and salt and pepper? Can you look at the news and the weather from Tel Aviv or Jerusalem as though you were imminently on your way there? Can you take a look at your travel plans post-COVID? Because while I love to travel and I love my hometown of Toronto, my heart and my soul are equally at home in Israel. Perhaps even more so. And oh baby, those falafels with French fries.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Shine. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Momentum Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join Adrienne again next time for more timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations that fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note.
This podcast was sponsored by the Zitelman Family Foundation. Spread the wisdom. Inspire Jewish individuals around the globe by supporting Momentum's podcasts. To sponsor, contact podcast@momentumunlimited.org. You're listening to a Momentum podcast. For unlimited inspiration, wisdom, and empowerment, visit momentumunlimited.org.